Welcome to Art is Good For You, the podcast spreading the message that making and experiencing art can help with healing and happiness no matter who we are. I'm Rachel Duffield, and after nearly 20 years working in museum education, I gave it all up to start a community interest company helping people in rural communities make and experience art. At 52, I'm so lucky to be living the dream as a full-time artist, art teacher, and now podcaster. It's my belief that even if art isn't up front and centre in your life, it can still have a big impact, sometimes in unexpected ways. So I'm inviting people from all walks of life, some arty, some not, to chat with me about the 3 pieces of art in their life that have turned out to be memorable, special, or even life-saving. My guest today is a librarian and stepmom who endured not one but 2 close bereavements at a young age. Her mum when she was just 11 and her husband at just 42. Now she describes herself as a continual, enthusiastic learner of all things. When it comes to art specifically, although high school apparently told her she was no good and she spent years believing them, I know her as a prolific and joyful artist who adds colour and abundance to not only her many sketchbooks, but also to every single room she enters. Donna, welcome to Art is Good For You. Right, okay, so we're going to plunge straight in, Donna, to a question about how much of a consumer of art you are and how much of a creator of art you are. So I know that art plays a big part in your life. So what percentage of that would you say is creating it and what percentage is consuming it for you?
Well, if we're talking visual art, I spend a good chunk of my week creating art. Now, whether it's doodling on a notepad, doodling in sketchbooks, trying to put paint on canvases and making art, I spend a good chunk of my week doing it. Whether it's an hour or so of an evening, a whole day like today would normally be spent here in the studio. In terms of consuming art, I try to go to local galleries and local art locations and exhibitions as much as I can. I wouldn't say I go every week, but I would love to. We're lucky enough, we've got the Sainsbury Centre just down the road and the Castle Museum and so many galleries in the city and exhibitions that are putting on in the city so often. So I probably see art most of days in one format or another. And I'm always watching online courses and online videos and anything to do with art where I can. And, you know, we're lucky at the moment, it's Portrait Artist of the Year time, so a regular weekly slot on the TV as well.
Yeah. And what about other sorts of art?
I am always listening to music, whether it's radio or whether it's Spotify. Really, Spotify I listen to. But obviously being a librarian, I also read. Not as much as I used to, not as much as I wished I did, but I'm always reading. And sometimes even if it's just when I'm in work and I'm reading the backs of the covers of the books that are coming in and going, oh, that's one for me. Oh, that's on my reserve pile. Oh, yeah, that one's coming home. So I make good use of the art books within the library service and novels as well.
Yeah, lots of different art. So there's loads in your life. So percentage-wise, 50-50 or one higher than the other? What do you reckon?
I mean, yeah, shall we go 50-50? That sounds, it feels wrong to say 50-50, but actually I think I'm lucky enough, I've got my sight, and I've got my hearing. So I'm seeing and hearing art in many, many ways all day long.
I'm surprised it's as little as 50-50 for you, Donna, knowing the amount that you make and do. I would have put you about 80% creator.
Starting this today, I thought I needed to calm myself down. So I've been in here and I've been throwing some pink paint around.
I can't wait to see it. So the first one is your first memory of art. Now, when I've thought about that question, being a visual artist, I thought, what's the first bit of art you can remember seeing? I'm interested to know if there's other art forms that are coming in. There have been with other guests. So what's yours? What's your first memory?
as a child of the 70s. I grew up in Milton Keynes, and in Milton Keynes there are some very famous concrete cows.
Oh, the concrete cows, yes.
And I just grew up with the concrete cows, but more importantly, I grew up with outside of my house, outside of my bedroom window, I would look across the road to a park, and there was the head of a concrete giraffe, and the giraffe in its entirety then went down the hill into a play park. So as a child of the 70s, my first memory is Milton Keynes concrete animals. A giraffe literally outside of my bedroom window. We used to walk to the shops, and they had a park for the owl and the pussycat, but along the walk, along where you would normally have a hedgerow and things, there was a full concrete owl and pussycat story. So every time we walked to the shops from our house, you could walk all over the whole story of the owl and the pussycat. And it was amazing.
That's wonderful. That's really foresighted of the planners. You don't normally get that sort of level of gorgeousness.
It's quite interesting in that I had no idea, but in researching it, because I wanted to know more, it was actually done as a community art project with a lady called Liz Lay. She's an American artist and came to the UK in 1967, where she has married a UK person, but she is an artist, and she worked as a community artist. I think she received a bursary to do this, and she worked with the communities to create this concrete world of the cows and of the giraffe, the owl and the pussycat. So my early childhood was all related to these concrete sculptures.
So concrete animals, how lovely, and also quite weird.
Yes. But as a child, it was just somewhere to go and play. It was amazing.
So that's your first memory. Any other really early memories of art? Because you said you had a different memory first that you were going to say.
Music has always been big in my life, and for me, music feels very much part of an art life as well. They are just another form of art. So I grew up, my mum loving all the 60s stuff and very much loving Elvis Presley. So I grew up loving Elvis Presley work, and just music was always on. We always had music on. Then when I came to Norfolk, my nan always had the radio on and would always be singing in the kitchen. So music was massive in our family.
So do you generally have music on when you're making art now?
I do, but not all the time. Depending on my mood of the moment, I will either have some very heavy music if I really just want to bash some stuff out or banish some stuff in my head. Sometimes I'll have very calming music. Sometimes I'll just have music that the playlist of the day. A lot of times I listen to podcasts, but I do find if I listen to a podcast while I'm trying to work on art, I get distracted and I either don't hear the podcast or I don't do the art. So, sometimes I do think carefully about that one. But sometimes I have white noise as well.
Oh, what sort of white noise?
I will often have water, so seascape type white noise. So, at the coastline and having...
Doesn't it make you want to wee?
Sometimes.
Would me.
But that sometimes means that the art can be a bit more frenetic, because I really do.
Yeah. Okay, at least it's not a trickle of water, it's actually the sea. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. The coastline, the waves coming in and out. So, and for me, the coastline is very calming and restorative. So that works.
Sorry, I don't mean to disrespect the coastline in any way there. But my first thought was, oh my God, if I had water running, I'd be constantly back and forth. Yeah. Okay, so we're on to you about making art now. So your art as a lifeboat, your notes to me, it was unequivocally making art that was the lifeboat, not looking at it. So talk to me about that.
Making art for me, it saved me. Many things I think I could say saved me, but actually putting colour on a page was the thing that really, really saved me at a very incredibly low time in my life.
How?
it allowed me to quieten the voices that were in my head. The stuff that was in my head that was telling me that life was just a bit horrible right now allowed me to slow down, to not necessarily take stock, but it made me blinkered. It made, in a good way, it made me just sit and focus on the piece of paper in front of me and with the pen that I was using. So I chose to use colouring books and felt tip pens and pencils as my way of recovery. And even now, if I'm having a particularly traumatic time for whatever reason, the thing that will calm me is a piece of paper and some form of colouring material. It's the thing that calms me.
And that's the power of making art and making colour. And like you say, blinkered, but in a good way. It's why they put blinkers on horses, isn't it? It's to calm them and focus them on the road ahead. It
stopped all of the other stuff, all of that was going on out there that was causing me problems. It just channeled me onto that page.
How did you really dig into that, or did you broaden what you were doing? How did it grow or develop?
For a long time, it stayed just like that. It was the colouring books, it was the pencils and the pens. It was noticing art out and about. So I would go out and I would see art, and I would stop and look at it, and I would ask myself, what is it about that piece that I like? Why do I like it? And invariably, it was bright colours. Invariably, it was colour. Invariably, it was line, and it was order. And maybe because my head was not ordered at the time, maybe that allowed me to see the way through, and the brightness of the colour and things like that. So it's when I went and bought, for me, my first piece of art. There's a local artist in Cromer called Samuel Thomas, and I saw his work in a gallery in Cromer. I was there one day when I was in a particularly bad place in my head. It was a lot of crying and things like that. And I walked past the gallery, and as I walked past, I just saw a piece of work. And I'm like, okay, that's quite nice. Okay, let's go in. And I went in and spent a lot of time in the gallery looking at lots of artworks, because it's an amazing little gallery. But eventually I went to his pieces that were there, and it just stopped me in my tracks, in that I needed to have it. I needed to have that piece of work. There was a serenity to it. There was a cleanness of lines. It was about Cromer, Cromer is an amazing place for me.
Why is Cromer so amazing for you?
Cromer is somewhere that I go when I need to cry. It's somewhere I go when I want to be happy. It's somewhere I go when I want to put my feet in the water. It's somewhere where I go when I want to eat chips on the pier. It is, and has been for a long time, the place for me.
Sounds wonderful.
Cromer has seen and heard a lot from me over the years. But it was an incredibly important place for me in an earlier life. Remains important in my life now.
Oh, how wonderful. So it's not exactly your happy place, but it's your everything place?
It's my everything place, yeah. I've always said I'm going to retire there one day.
Great. And does Samuel Thomas still make art and still sell it?
Yes, yeah, he does. He's a prolific artist. He's an amazing artist. He paints about a location, and he's abstracted, but he's not very abstract. You can see the location in there, and he has iconic things. So my first piece was a very serene piece. I've since bought 3 more of his, and they're all about Cromer and Norwich, and they have the castle, and they have the red arrows, and they have just lots of things that are very iconic to Norfolk.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So that was really, I mean, we moved without saying it. That was your piece of art with an impact, wasn't it? That was the one that kind of really
Yeah.
got you right there.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
it did. Yeah.
And what an impact. Yeah.
And I've met him as well. I had a proper fangirl moment. One of my art classes that I was taking here in Norfolk, they put on a workshop with him, and he came in and he was teaching us how to paint his style, and it was amazing. I don't think I really learned very much about the painting because I was a little bit the whole time.
Well, we all have moments like that in our lives, don't we? Yeah. It's just nice to be in the presence of someone you really admire sometimes. I mean, they say never meet your heroes, don't they? But maybe it was a good one, this one. You said in your original notes, Donna, there was a couple of other pieces. You like The Girl with the Pearl Earring and Turner's Deluge. So what part those played in your life?
They're just so Girl with a Pearl Earring is the one that I was introduced when I read Tracy Chevalier's book, and I absolutely loved the book, and I needed to go and find more out about the painting. So it was more the book taught me about it, and I just love the contrast in it. You've got this really dark background, and then there's this girl, and that's all that there is. She's just there, and she's asking you to ask questions. She's, well, what do you want to know about me? I'm not going to tell you up front. You need to ask me. And I don't know why, but I love it. I love the play of the paint on there. I love the play of the color, and I love what's hidden as well. When he's one side of her is so in focus and so bright, and the other part is just, it's a little bit softer and it's a little bit gentler, and I just love it. I love that lightness and darkness that's in it. And I think when I consider my life, I've had lightness and darkness in my life, and it's almost like, it's a bit pretentious to say, but she could almost be me. She could be that person that comes to life, and then something happens and she goes into hiding again. It's very pretentious to say that.
No, it's not. Don't apologise. If that's what it means to you, that's what it means to you, and that's wonderful. And I'm sure Vermeer would be delighted to know that people were still really responding to his painting all these years later. And it's a beautiful painting. It really is lovely.
It is. It's a gorgeous painting. I love it. I really do. And I think the Turner one came to me. So the reason those two were there was because last year I wrote a magazine article, and I needed to talk about lightness and darkness, and Vermeer's was just like, that's it, that's what I'm talking about. Now I need to think about another painting, and I spent a lot of time looking for artworks, and so it's important to me because I actually spent time trying to find work that became the reason for the article, the lightness, the darkness, what's there. And then when I actually reviewed the painting, again, it's just really pretty. I know that's really bizarre. If you actually look at the painting, it's very much lightness and darkness, and it's very much what's hiding there. It's there's a lot of stuff hidden away in that painting. There's a lot of turmoil. I'm looking at it now, and I look at it and think, that's the darker side. That's the chaos. That's the stuff in my head that was all over the place, and me needing to work myself out. That's what I see in that painting. And then the brightness in there, that is you can get there. You've got to work for it, but you've got to get there. And so I look at that painting now and go, yeah, I'm in that bright space. That's where I am now. But all of that darkness is there and it's around me. Never going to go away.
Oh.
Conversation for another day.
No, well, that's a wonderful thing, though, because we know Turner was amazing. But the fact that that picture that he has made describes a state of mind so accurately for you. And I'm sure anyone else who looks at it would see those things, but maybe have their own take on it as well. It's astonishing the art that piece of art can have so much impact. And it's really just a series of lines on a page. And what is it about the human brain and the human condition that we can look at a series of lines on a page and think it means something? We attach meaning to things, don't we? Which is really, really fascinating. But also, because we've attached a meaning to a thing, somehow that makes us better.
That's the power of art. And whatever the word art means for you, that's the thing. You know, for me, art is visual, but it's also musical. But for other people, it might not be.
And that's an interesting thing, that doing the podcast has been lovely for me, because I've heard all these different people's stories and what it means to them and what different pieces of art, and it's introduced me to new art and stuff. So it's been fabulous. But nobody's the same at all, not in the slightest. But I've noticed there's something in your notes that we haven't covered. Bryan Adams.
Oh, Bryan Adams.
Talk to me about the sandpaper and sawdust voice with a bit of honey that Bryan Adams has.
Bryan Adams has been in my life since 1991, when I bought Bryan Adams' Waking Up the Neighbours, and I absolutely love it. There is that particular album I will play and have played and will continue to play over and over and over again. It's so emotive, so freeing, so amazing. You know, his voice in it is just incredible, but that's beside the point. It's what it does for me. His music does something to me. It my heart does weird stuff, my lungs do weird stuff. I mean, I've been to see him, I don't know how many times. I've yet to meet him, unfortunately, but
he might come to Chroma one day.
Well, he's been to Blicklin. I've seen him at Blicklin.
Oh, not far.
Not far, no. But his music, the way he puts words together, the way he tells a story in his music, that somehow that album, above all others of his, is the story of my life. And you know, that album came out in 1991. I was 20, and I'm very much not 20 now. And it's still my album. It's my album of choice. He's my artist of choice.
So your lifeboat's quite full, isn't it, Donna? So you got Bryan Adams, Samuel Thomas, Turner, and the girl with the pearl earring in there. Well, we've nearly covered everything. Is there anything else you've thought of since you wrote your notes that you'd like to add to your lifeboat, or something that had impact?
The one other question you gave me was, what would be the piece of art if I could steal it? What piece of art could I steal?
Okay, what is it?
I didn't really have to think about it very much. It is, without doubt, Van Gogh's Starry Night. The colours, the brushwork, the movement, the emotion, the feeling, the everything. You know, I have fabric with that on it. I have a Lego set with it, and it was bought for me, and I loved it, and it's going to go on a wall at some point. At the moment, it's still sitting on the cabinet, but I loved making that. I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, and when they did the Van Gogh episode with that, it was just brilliant. So that would be the one if I could steal it, I would. Maybe if I get to the stage where I didn't need to have a TV, it'd hang where the TV was. Maybe I'll get one of those ones that has a cupboard. So the TV's in the cupboard and I can just put the artwork on there.
Lovely. I think that's an excellent choice, actually. I think I wouldn't mind going halves with you on the. We could have half each. Rip it in half. Um, maybe not, but yeah, that's a really nice choice. What a fantastic painting it is. Okay, so finally, just to draw it all together, we'll go through. So you have got your first art, which is the Milton Keynes concrete animals, the cows and the giraffe, and there was a cartoon that's made me think. There was a cartoon when George was little. So it's about 20 years ago. It was called 64 Zoo Lane, and it was one of the bedtime cartoons. And she used to slide out of her bedroom window down the giraffe's neck to get into the zoo because she lived next door to the zoo. And that's reminded me of you now, having the giraffe right near your bedroom window, just nip out and have a chat with the animals of an evening. So yeah, Milton Keynes concrete animals and the Samuel Thomas, the chroma thing, and the girl with the pearl earring. And the list goes on, the Turner, and now the Van Gogh. So if you had to pick one, oh, there's a face.
Van Gogh.
The Van Gogh, really?
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for choosing. It's like Desert Island Discs, isn't it? Which one would you choose? But,
yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Donna, for joining me on Art is Good for You. Is art good for you? Silly question.
Art is amazing for me. Yeah. It keeps me here.
Brilliant. And together we will continue to spread the message through our art and through all the other stuff that we do. So wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. And Donna, thank you very much. Bye-bye, my love.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Art is Good for You with me, Rachel Duffield. If you can't wait for more art-based chat, or even better, this podcast has inspired you to pick up a paintbrush or a pencil yourself, you can find details of all my classes, including my community art clubs, on my website, www.rachelduffield.art.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Rachel Duffield Art. What have you got to lose? Remember, art is good for you.